As a CBT therapist, I often hear depressed clients tell me they don't understand why they're feeling depressed. They often have good lives and they tell me they've got no reason to feel depressed. If anything, they feel guilty for feeling so low. As a therapist, I try to help them understand that their depression comes down to just a few main concepts. These are a lack of rewards in their life, an increase in stresses, and something we call avoidance patterns. Let's explore these concepts to see how they fit together to cause depression and keep it going. It all starts with a life event. These can either be positive or negative, but what they do is they change our rewards and stresses. Let's use the example of losing your job. Losing your job is never normally a nice experience. It can change your routine, and what it can also do is increase the amount of stresses in your life. These stresses can include debt, relationship issues caused by being unemployed, having to search for a new job, having to face rejection during interviews. Life situations don't just add stress to our life, but they can actually take things away from our life too. We call this a lack of rewards. And if you lose your job, for example, you may have less money. You may lose the social interactions you valued at work. You may lose a sense of achievement from your job. And you may lose a sense of routine and structure. And the lack of finances can lead to you doing less hobbies, spending less time with friends, and doing less of the things that you enjoy. Due to these lack of rewards and increase in stresses, a person will understandably have an emotional response. This can be low mood, frustration, anger, anxiety, guilt or shame, and they may feel tired and fatigued. So it makes sense how negative events can lead to depression, but what about positive ones? For this, let's look at an example of having a new child, a really positive experience, and how this can influence our rewards and stresses. Although having a baby can be a positive thing with many rewards, it can also lead to the disruption of rewards that you used to have. For example, you might now have less time available for hobbies, less free time with your partner, less free time to spend socialising. Having a new baby understandably increases your stresses. You're now responsible for a life, you probably have a lack of sleep, and your routine is highly disrupted. And you may now have more financial responsibilities. And again, this reduction in rewards and increase in stresses will have some sort of a negative emotional response. When we feel a strong negative emotional response, we typically respond by using something called an avoidance pattern. There's three main types we're going to talk about, and these are experiential avoidance, avoidance due to fatigue, and avoidance due to a feared outcome. When someone feels a strong negative emotion or has difficult thoughts, our first instinct is to try and distract ourselves or reduce the emotion experienced. This is called experiential avoidance. This type of avoidance is great in the short term as we can hide from our feelings, but teaches us the unhelpful lesson that these feelings and thoughts need to be avoided. This creates a pattern of avoidance. For example, let's say you've just had a falling out with a friend. It feels awful, but instead of dealing with the situation, which takes courage and motivation, you decide to binge watch Netflix instead. This successfully distracts you from the situation in the short term, but as soon as the program ends, the feelings return, and with it, the urge to avoid again. We normally distract ourselves with low-valued activities rather than something that will give us a sense of reward. Also, avoidance typically stops us from overcoming the thing that was causing us the stress in the first place. In this example, you're still upset with your friend. The second type of avoidance is due to feeling fatigued and tired. Due to our lack of rewards and our increase in stresses, we can naturally feel quite tired, exhausted, and lack motivation. We might say to ourselves, I can't be bothered. What's the point? So, when a task comes up, or something that would be good for us in the long run, like eating well, dieting, exercising, or spending time with people we love, we end up avoiding it. The reason we do this is because when we feel tired and we avoid doing something, we get this really short-term sense of relief. But this is very quickly replaced by guilt. The lack of doing things increases our stresses and reduces the rewards in our life. The last type of avoidance pattern we're going to talk about is when we avoid something due to a feared outcome. When we feel low, we often predict the worst. People don't like me. I'm not good enough. I can't do it. I'm going to fail. So we avoid even trying. This confirms our belief. If you don't do anything because you don't feel good enough, you'll definitely not feel good enough. Naturally, this leads to a lack of rewards and an increase in stresses. The flip side of this type of avoidance is avoiding by overcompensating. We often try to avoid our fear coming true. If we don't feel loved, we might try to always say yes and be a people pleaser. If we feel like a failure, we try to never make a mistake. If we feel invisible, we try to get people to notice us. The problem is, when we overcompensate, we naturally feel fearful forever, increasing your stresses. You also get to never see what would occur if you did not overcompensate. And typically, the ways we overcompensate makes our life less rewarding. For example, if you always say yes and be a people pleaser, you never get to see that people love you regardless. If you never allow yourself to make a mistake, you're always going to feel like a failure regardless. The mistake might not matter. If we try to get people to notice us, we only ever feel we're noticed because of what we do. So it's not the life situations that are directly causing your depression, but it's how they interact with your sense of reward and the increase in stress they cause. So let's draw this out into a diagram, as this might make it easier to understand. Some sort of life event or current situation happens, and what this does is it reduces our rewards in our life or increases our stresses. Due to this, we feel some sort of emotional or physical response. To try and avoid this emotional or physical response, we engage in some sort of avoidance. This avoidance feeds back into our emotions by giving us a quick sense of relief, but it can also lead us to feeling guilty, lower, or having another emotional response. This avoidance also has some sort of impact in our life, and it typically increases our stresses further, or they remain the same, and reduces our rewards. And this creates a vicious cycle where nothing ever changes in our life and we just start to feel lower and lower as we start to engage in more and more avoidance. Hopefully this video has helped you see that it's not the life situations that you're in that cause depression, but how it changes your lack of rewards and increase in stresses, and most importantly, how your act of avoiding and using these avoidance patterns is maintaining the problem. My next video is on how to identify these avoidance patterns and then how to overcome them. For more information, have a look at my CBT self-help guide, which includes worksheets and a step-by-step approach to overcoming depression.